Hello, boys and girls. Today, we're going to be talking about changes to states of matter, but we're also going to tie it in to Veterans Day, which was last week. So, we're going to tie in some history from talking about World War II and some sweet treats that needed to be used during World War II and reversible changes. So, make sure that you follow along with me as we travel to Cantini to learn some more about how a sweet treat, chocolate, was used during World War II and why scientists had to work within some parameters to make sure that they could actually use it out in the field to help the soldiers. So join me as we go. Welcome to Cantini. You can tell we've traveled a little bit back in time, whereas I'm wearing the uniform of a World War II soldier. So we've traveled back to 1937, where the US government has reached out to the Hershey's chocolate manufacturer and asked them to create a chocolate bar that had some scientific constraints or things that it had to have for the soldiers. Now, what they asked was that this chocolate bar had to be light, less than 4 ounces, which isn't very much. It had to have a lot of energy inside of it. It had to taste a little bit better than what they were eating, and it also had to resist a bunch of heat. Now, during World War II, not all the war was fought over in Europe, where it might have been a little chilly and kind of weather like what we have. Some of the war was fought in warm tropical places. And so that chocolate bar had to give energy to the troops in places where they had to worry about it melting, or turning from that solid to a liquid. Because it would be hard if we were hot. I'm hot in my uniform and we're in a hot place trying to get that chocolate to solidify or reverse back into a solid. I'm here at Cantini's tank ground, and we just talked about the problems that these scientists met. They had to work with chemists and food scientists to solve that problem to meet all the requirements that the US government needed for the soldiers to get that candy bar. Now, they did meet all of those requirements. This D ration bar was what was created, and it didn't melt super easy because they were in warm places. So it was very thick, and the taste was a little bit better than the food. Apparently, it wasn't super great, and some people ended up tossing it out instead of eating it because it was so bad. But they did make what they had to, and I'm sure they had to go through the same engineering steps where they had to have a problem, which they did, and then they had to imagine and plan and create and then improve that step. Because while they were making it, Hershey's, the chocolate was so thick that it couldn't even go through the machine, so they had to have special machines that made these super thick chocolate bars. The soldiers couldn't even chew through it when it was in the bar form. They actually had to cut it up with small knives. And gotta be careful. But they had to make sure that it was something that they could still use. So they made millions of these, sent them out, and they did their job. So Hershey's chocolate did a great job. Now, if we're gonna talk about the properties of these chocolate bars, they were hard and thick, okay? So that's usually describing solids, hard and thick. And the taste will describe it as a solid or a liquid. It is definitely not like the ones that we buy in the grocery store today. So even in a dangerous environment where we have dangerous things happening all around us, we still have to have our needs of food to give us the energy that we need. Another material that was super important during World War II was metal. As you can see, the tank behind me, that is made out of metal. And the reason it can look like a tank is because metal is reversible. It's a reversible property where it can be a solid and we can melt it down into a liquid and then put it in the shape that we need, and then it will harden, okay, and kind of freeze up back into that solid into whatever shape we need, which made it good for making tanks and other weapons and stuff that soldiers needed. Welcome back to the present time, where we're going to talk about our present day Hershey's chocolate bar. Now, this chocolate bar is the one that we know, and the one that we know if we eat, and it might get messy around our mouth, it might make our hands messy, because these chocolate bars, just the heat of our body can cause them to melt. So the ones during the war had to make sure it was okay in like really hot temperatures and against hot bodies, and this one just melts super That's what makes it so that it melts right in our mouth from that solid to that liquid. So I want to make sure during this experiment where we're going to see this solid start to warm up and then start to get more energy, and then it starts to melt into that liquid chocolate. So we're going to apply a little heat, and I learned earlier that if you use too much heat directly on the chocolate, it actually sets your chocolate bar on fire. So always make sure you're safe. I now have some fire safety equipment all around me, and I know the correct number to call if something does happen. I also have stuff to clean up a mess so Mrs. Papanoff does not get me. So let's start with some heat, and we're gonna put it kind of close to the chocolate where it's just gonna start warming it up. So that flame under it is making the chocolate nice and hot. So that heat from the lighter is getting so strong that if I hold it too close, it's causing the solid to turn into a liquid and then turn back into a solid right away. So you might be able to see some slight change where the chocolate bar is starting to melt. It's starting to droop down like that. And my finger is already starting to get chocolate on them. So while we couldn't really see it drip into the container, it did drip and fall off onto my apron. So it eventually does turn into a liquid. I mean, that's why we wear safety clothes like aprons and lab coats to make sure it's safe. Now, I use my safety equipment and cleaning equipment to make sure I clean up any mess so that way Mrs. Papanoff, like I said, does not get me. So, as you can see, Hershey's chocolate has come a long way, and I really like Hershey's chocolate because they did a lot to help our soldiers in World War II, as you saw. And not only that, but Milton Hershey, the person who worked with the Hershey's chocolate bars and invented it, he is someone that opened up an orphanage for boys back in the early 1900s, and he actually really liked to help people too. So whenever I buy candy, I do try to go towards Hershey chocolate because they do a lot to help people. So thank you for learning with me today, and have a great day.